Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Appointed Directors meeting, a monthly meeting we have at the lunch hour. My name is Ty Metzer, Chair of the Board. To my left is Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards, and Commissioner Mejia is excused today. We have several of our department directors, and we will just kind of go around the table. We're live streamed on our YouTube channel. It's 12:03 right now. We have until 1 p.m. to go through. So who wants to go first? I guess Patrick's on the phone, so go with Jennifer Walker, Public Works. What's going on in Public Works? A million things according to our board agendas every Tuesday.
There are a lot of things going on. Actually, we are still struggling with some supply chain issues. So instead, there is a shortage of paint. So we are not doing our regular striping program this year. So we're putting down buttons, but we anticipate the striping program to pick back up next year. But that is just, there was the weather event that happened in Texas there was a accident that happened at one of the plants down there. I had a meeting with the other public works directors in the area, and they too are looking for paint and don't have any as well. So between that and escalating costs of materials, we are still moving forward with our construction projects. So those will be okay. Mullen Road, the contractor has said that they do have paint to be able to finish that. We anticipate that project being finalized by the end of the year. I think in September will be substantially complete. I have a contract actually in front of me right now for the repair of Old Highway 99, the Chain Hill slide that we have. So that's going to be starting soon. Goodness, we're still have about 17 vacant positions out of about 200 total, 202 full-time positions. And we are continuing to try to get seasonal help, but that's been a bit of a challenge. But overall, doing well. We are in the preparation phase for our transportation improvement program and our CIP presentations, briefings to the board, which I believe are happening, I think it's next week. So we are actively working on that, but staying busy.
Questions for Jennifer?
I do have a question, but maybe it's going to be addressed later, and that's the closure of the trail. Are we going to talk about that at all, or is that coming up at a later point?
I think we're going to talk about it tomorrow, but Jennifer, you might have heard that we got, some consternation about the length of time and the lack of a detour on the trail closure, and whether there's any possibility of accommodating the bike commuters and bike folks that use the trail a lot during the summer, particularly. So I think we're going to have that taken up tomorrow. Sure, if there's anything you wanted to say today, you're welcome to.
What I would say is that we will definitely be prepared to have a conversation about that tomorrow. Scott Lindblom and I are going to come up and talk about it. It is always challenging because of the fish window and when we need to close those down, and the challenge also exists that it's not just bicyclists or cyclists that use the trail. It's people walking with children in strollers and little kids and toddlers, and so we will definitely have a discussion about kind of the staging of the construction and how that all works. So.
Okay.
What I guess I would add is that it is a definitely a short-term inconvenience for a long-term benefit, but go into more detail tomorrow for sure.
I'd just comment that this morning, the Thurston Regional Transportation Policy Board that met this morning, I filled in for Commissioner Mejia, and the same party that testified yesterday about concerns testified there in the public testimony as well. And I don't know if she said this yesterday or not, but there's apparently quite a long distance. It's not just the location where the activity is taking place, but access several miles away from both ends. The whole trail is closed, so I don't know why that needs to be, why people couldn't just walk down to the end and turn around and come back if they wanted to. But everything's closed, so a lot of commotion and confusion coming about that.
Well, hopefully we can provide some clarity tomorrow on it.
Jennifer, are we gonna, sorry,
I'm sorry.
are we gonna have a map?
I hope you have a map and photos.
Awesome.
Ms. Mesmer was besides an Olympia City Council member, be a planning commission member, 9 years on the Intercity Transit Board as a citizen representative, runs the Thurston Thrives community design sub-work group, serves on the TRPC for Intercity Transit for a bunch of, I mean, she's everywhere.
She's pretty well connected.
So,
But the one thing, and another thing she did say was that it was a very simple detour. Now, I don't know what that means, but that's what the group was presented with, that information. So you might hear something back.
yeah.
And it will be helpful to receive the maps and the pictures. I presume that our professionals at Public Works have considered many of these options. So if Ms. Mesmer is able to,
I think they know people are interested.
see some of that information, it might be helpful.
Yeah, we're letting them know that discussion's happening. So. Okay, Public Works, anybody else? Question for Public Works?
Maybe let me just add.
Yeah.
That the plan, folks, for tomorrow is to try and address the commissioner items first and then review the agenda. We're not gonna send out a new agenda, but just so be prepared for that 11 o'clock hour as the start, so we don't hold you on. Kurt, Jennifer, that's mostly to you.
Perfect. Okay, let's go to Kurt.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm going to start off with what's going to be probably a reoccurring theme over the summer, which is my plug for be prepared and be cautious regarding fires, where it's extremely dry out there. I know there's a number of burn bans in effect, but emergency management is preparing for, continues, I should say, to prepare for potential fire activation. And we're working closely with our fire agencies. Some of our challenges, though, are there's fires on the east side of the state and other parts of the state. So resources at the state level are being stretched as well. And as you've heard anything in the media, there's a lot of information out there regarding how the entire western part of the United States is dry and is under serious fire threat. So I'm going to put that out there as to whatever people can do amongst the population to ensure that you're trying to minimize or mitigate your activities to ensure that we don't start fires or we mitigate the opportunity to start fires. So it's a balancing act also for our fire agencies in the county to be able to support the statewide fire suppression and also keep enough resources back for our needs here in the county. So next one on for emergency management, Cascadia Rising 2022. That takes place in June of 2022, less than a year away. We're going to start a series of briefings on probably a quarterly basis until we get into 2022, and then we'll do a more regular briefing. But we're going to brief not only the board, but also directors and elected offices on our participation as a county and what you can expect. So we'll do periodic updates on that. But that's coming in really close. And some people would say it's 11 months away, but that's going to go by really fast when you talk about planning for our large scale exercise. This is a national level exercise. Actually, I believe it's international, including Canada as well as for that exercise. So, and it's based on the scenarios based on a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. And then going and switching over to the Medic 1 side, we are in the process of completing our AED purchase and equipment for Washington State Patrol vehicles that patrol inside of Thurston County. Last year and the year before, we equipped sheriff's deputies with AEDs to keep in their vehicles. And the reason we're looking at sheriff's deputies and state patrol right now is because they're more likely to be by themselves in a situation where there could be a cardiac arrest and therefore have a need for an AED to be close by. And they may be the first ones on scene in such an incident or event. So we equipped sheriff's deputies first. Now we're equipping state patrol, and that seems to be going well. So we're excited about that. And then on Medic One as well, I reported earlier this year that we were having challenges with paramedic hiring process. In fact, last go around for the interview process for paramedics in Thurston County, we had nobody apply to be a paramedic in Thurston County. So the fire agencies and Medic One did a different approach. We went through a LinkedIn process. We did set up some Zoom video chats for potential applicants. And we actually ended up with 10 applicants for this go around on the paramedic interviewing process. 7 completed the process satisfactorily, made it through not only the interview process, but the testing. And now we have 7 paramedics that are on the list for potential vacancies in Thurston County. And so that's a success that we're touting. And we're going to continue that process to how we've adjusted our paramedic recruiting process. Other than that, the other one I would have is going to be on the agenda for tomorrow, ambulance shortage for transport, but I think I'm going to hold that until tomorrow. I don't want to steal any of the thunder that Josh has prepared for us at the So questions, that's what I have to report out on.
No thunder to be stolen. Kurt, a little preview might be a good idea.
So just some background in hopefully 30 seconds or less. We've had a situation where we've had extended wait times for patients who call 911 for EMS service. We've had extended wait times for ambulance transport to arrive on scene, in some cases over an hour. And so what that's creating is a concern because there's bottlenecks at certain pieces and parts of the system. So we're working to address that. In fact, we have a meeting with all the fire agencies this afternoon. We met with the private ambulance companies earlier this week. And so we're looking to address that situation because if you're in need of medical help, and I should stress, this is lower acuity situations. In other words, patients who do need transport to the emergency department, but are not life-threatening. So we prioritize transport of patients so that those who have higher or more serious medical need are prioritized higher and then obviously get transported first. But even if you have a situation where it's lower acuity, waiting for an hour is not a good situation, and it's not a good outcome. So we're looking to address that, and I will have some recommendations to the board tomorrow and some information for the board tomorrow.
So Kurt, just to carry on to the preview so we can actually maybe save a little time tomorrow, the action is you already have the authority to approve extending more ambulances, and that would reduce the amount of time that folks are waiting. And so what our job tomorrow is to inform the Board of County Commissioners, to relate to them that this authority already exists and that there are a couple of metrics that you're going to put in play before you enact this authority. Is that correct? Correct.
And that's what we're talking with the fire agencies this afternoon for. So we earlier this year in February, the board approved what we call a high probability unit, HPU contract for all 12 fire agencies in Medic One. And that essentially provides for a surge capacity for transport within the county. Now, there's got to be several items in place for that to take place, and I think we're meeting those right now. A lack of transport capability, a short-term situation, not a long-term situation, but it also, since we're going through the attorney's office as well, prosecuting attorney's office, because they vetted this previously, we're just making sure we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's. But we want to make sure also that we believe it's a short-term situation, 3 to 4 weeks potentially, and we're working with the fire agencies because the staffing for this is done by the fire agencies. They just don't have the funding to be able to staff additional resources. So that's who we're working with to be able to get aid units, aid cars out there in the field.
So this will be Kurt informing you that there's a logical reason why we might need to activate the surge capacity and that he'll do that based on a couple of metrics. So no action for you necessarily, just as that.
Information. And the other piece is I want to stress, we do not feel today This may change tomorrow, but that's why we're putting the plan in place. We don't feel the need today for be able to surge with Medic One and the fire agencies with additional aid units today. We have that plan in place, but we want to be able to pull that trigger really fast in a short-term situation so that we don't have patients out there waiting for extended periods of time.
And not have the board caught off guard.
Right.
Okay, any questions for Kurt? That we won't be addressing tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Thank you, Kurt.
Okay, thanks.
Let's go to Maria, HR.
Good afternoon, everyone. Maria Ponte, HR Director. Because it's budget season, HR staff and I have been really busy with getting the new rates presented to the board, got 3 thumbs up on that. Now we've moved into the phase where all the offices and departments, they're preparing their policy level requests, which means requests for new positions and budgeting what the cost of those positions looks like. So that's a heavy lift right there. Long-Term Care Act, still waiting to hear back from one of the insurance companies on whether they would provide us, our employees, options so that they can in turn opt out of the state-funded long-term care. Hoping to hear soon because our window of opportunity to opt out starts in October, which means it gives very little time for employees to make those applications, and there may be an underwriting process along with that. But as soon as we get that information, come before the board and provide additional information and seek approval for that. The telework policy, I've been working on that, and every time I feel like I've gotten closer to getting it before the board, something new comes up. Recently, request was made to add language about if somebody doesn't return their equipment, how can we either seek restitution for that? And so I'm getting some legal advice on that. There are definitely constraints on whether we can withhold pay from somebody's final paycheck. So more to come, but again, I'd like to get this policy adopted or readopted as soon as possible, as I think the new policy it has better language. Let's see. Those are my major highlights. Those are kind of like where our focus is this week. Is there any questions or any topic that somebody would like to hear more about?
Maria, I attended a Orca meeting this morning, and they also gave a little update on that deduction for the long-term care issue. And they seem to have located an insurance carrier that maybe was gonna address some of those issues. So I mentioned that because maybe you can contact those people and see if that in fact has been done or is, where they're at on it.
Orca.
All the same issues that you brought up about whether it'll work, if you leave the state, and who's eligible, who's not. But it did sound like they had somebody lined up that was willing to issue that.
Well, and one of the factors that we've taken into consideration based on feedback is to find an option that does not have a requirement to also purchase life insurance. And so the company that we're waiting to hear back from would be for the long-term care portion only, which I think benefits those that are already paying for life insurance. So that was one of our main priorities. We did provide them with employee census information, and that gives them an idea of, for instance, the cost might be dependent on your age and how close to retirement you might be, et cetera. So as soon as they've crunched their numbers, they'll get back to us with additional information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else for Maria?
Maria, this is Kurt. I've got several staff who are retiring next year. They've already notified us that they're retiring. in 2022. And their question is they will not be able to collect on this according to what they've seen on the rules. You have to be in the system for 3 years, if I understand correctly, and they won't meet that. But yet on the opt-out criteria, that's not one of the areas where they can opt out. And so they asked for a clarifying question on that.
Yeah, that's correct. I'd be, if you want to send me their specific questions, I can try to answer them. But one of the great challenges with this legislation is that there is a segment of employees that may pay into it and never reap any benefits of it.
Okay.
Yes, just email me and yeah, we can talk further. Because
Okay.
I've tried to do as much research, and fortunately there's not a lot out there, and Employment Security that will be administering the program has not updated their website either.
That was one of the other questions I had about that, is when are they going to update their website? And I told them Employment Security doesn't work for the county.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat, but yeah, reach out to me. Thank you, everyone.
Pat? You're next.
Oh, good afternoon, commissioners. Good afternoon, everyone. A couple of the big pressing issues for us right now is we're continuing to recruit and hire. We've been successful in filling 2 vacancies. We have some more to go, but hopefully we can get some offers and acceptance later this week from some other candidates. But it's been an interesting process. It's just a different marketplace right now, I think, for a lot of occupations, but specific to us, with recruiting of defense attorneys in the state of Washington, given everything that's gone on. It's just been a different marketplace, but we're really excited about the candidates we have. And so that's a big pressing issue for us, given our workload, is to get people in and start helping us out. Just received a couple grants from State Office of Public Defense that we're excited about to help offset Blake expenses, and I've gone over those with Robin. She's aware, and that'll help the county, help our department. Court operations are back up and running after our recent outbreak. Trials are occurring and court hearings are happening. Access to the jail is open, so that's a good thing for the system. I did want to lift up, we have a Law and Justice Council meeting tomorrow night at 4:30. That information is available on the Board of County Commissioners website if the public would like to attend. Quick snapshot of our agenda. We're going to have the opportunity to meet and introduce Leah Landon, who's Thurston County's new Criminal Justice Regional Program Manager. It's a mouthful. I had to make sure I got that right. But for those of you who haven't met Leah, had a chance to not only be on our hiring panel, but spend some time with her yesterday. Really excited about what she's going to bring for the county as a whole and for the citizens. A couple other things Dennis is aware of. We had a tentative, or not a tentative, we had a firm go live date for our big case management replacement project at the end of this month. We've had to continue that go live date out into September. We're working on a new final date. If, in case you were wondering, we've had to push that system out with the prosecuting attorney's office to begin in September. And a couple fun things. Friday, we started our return to office hours, an increase in office hours the week of July 6th. And so this Friday, we're hosting a little employee appreciation lunch here at the office for staff as they come back in greater numbers, and a good way to give back to staff for all they've been through and the hard work that they've had to endure through the pandemic. But I think, I think that's about it.
Questions for Patrick? One of the attorneys that Patrick lost went to take over public defense in the San Juan Islands, and I was up there last week and texted Alex, and we were gonna go out. He was tied up watching his young daughter, or we weren't able to hook up, but it sounded like he was doing well up there.
Well, I did have the chance. Yeah, I had a chance to see him recently too, as I dropped my youngest son up there for camp, and he texted me a quick video of his commute, which is a Piper Cub one day, because he missed a ferry from Friday Harbor to his house, and I had a quick response that I didn't appreciate looking at his commute.
Yep. All right, next is Mary Ann.
Good afternoon. We have a few updates for pretrial services. I've been working with the Healthcare Authority and Public Health and Social Services. We are hopefully soon going to be able to provide naloxone to our clients. We've unfortunately had some overdoses for our clients and or their family members. And so we want to be able to provide that as a service for our clients. And so the Healthcare Authority and Public Health and Social Services have been great partners for that. As Patrick said earlier, recruiting has been an issue. Had a vacancy in May, the middle of May, but I had a new staff member start July 1. So thankfully I did not have a vacancy for a long period of time. I'm very excited to welcome Lisa Jackson to pretrial services, and I'll be bringing her in front of the board soon. And then looking at the number of cases that have been assigned to pretrial services this year, we've had over 600 cases assigned to supervision. Part of that is because we have been able to expand to district court and meet the goal of universal screening, which was outlined in the county strategic plan. So I'm grateful to say that we've been able to accomplish that goal. That means that we are providing a full screening for everyone who goes in front of the court for their conditions of release to be set. We've had some exciting meetings with our criminal justice partners to get our pre-charge diversion going and off the ground, to expand our diversion unit to not just do post-charge, but that will help with some of the backlog of cases that we have going. We have another meeting next week, and we should be able to be receiving referrals soon. So looking forward to that. And I wanted to extend a thank you to the Board of County Commissioners. Yesterday at your meeting, you did a proclamation for next week being pretrial, probation, and parole supervision week. My staff were in attendance at the meeting, and afterwards they wanted to thank me. And so they appreciate the recognition that you gave them and the impacts of their work on the jail population and the impacts to the funding that saves and the impact that they have on community safety. And so they appreciated your words, they heard them, and it was just a few moments of the meeting, but it meant a lot to my staff who show up every day. So thank you for the effort that you did for that. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, Mary Ann. Is there any questions for her? You hit on the topics I wanted to hear about, so thanks.
Covered it. Thank you.
Last month, the court appearance rate for everyone on supervision was almost 90%. It was 89.1. So we're getting people who are on supervision right back in court. And so we reach out, they're able to call and Zoom in if they aren't there and having transportation issues, they can just appear by Zoom still. So it's good news.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. Next up is Dennis, IT.
Good afternoon. So it seems like that's being echoed, the hiring situation. So we're working through hiring. We did have some long-term staff retire, Brian Ferris being one of them. And Jennifer's actually on the panel. So we're doing interviews for that position today. And then we did get one of our ITC 1 positions filled. They will be starting at the end of this month. And we still have 2 other open positions that we're looking to fill. As far as project updates, Patrick touched on it. We did move the go live date for the Journal Technologies case management project out to September. We have a formal kickoff date for our ERP project of August 9th. And the permitting replacement project is moving along with the consultant finalizing requirements, and as we continue to develop the RFP to go out for that. The other one that we finally formally closed was the JAVS court video project. It's kind of been in operations already, but we formally closed the project. It's fairly stable compared to what it was in the beginning. So we're just continuing through fine-tuning adjustments on that. And we got our rates in front of the board, as you know, and got that moving forward, which was a heavy lift last month.
Questions for Dennis?
Are you gonna have a function for Brian? He was a longtime employee here.
I didn't understand. Am I gonna have a function?
Yeah, for Brian, he was a longtime employee.
Oh, a function. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. Yes. So he's right now on leave. So he obviously long-term employee. He has leave, and he still has a surface for transitioning out through the end of summer. He's on leave until September. I was hoping that as the summer winds down, we get a little bit more past this pandemic, we could have an actual in-person function for him, and bring him back and actually send him a formal farewell.
Thank you.
Yeah, keep us posted.
Anything else for Dennis? Nope.
I always have the question of, Dennis, when are we getting a new website?
Well, I'm going to start opening up some lemonade stands so we can get some more funding for that. Yeah, the funding's still the issue, and I know Robin and Ramiro, I think, is going to be talking to the board about the ARP funding, if that's going to be an option to offset it. But that's pretty much where we're at right now is the funding for it going forward.
Thank you.
I wouldn't mind just chiming in on that, just as a support. As we're recruiting, that our website and, others' websites here is one of the first places, recruits look to learn more about our organizations, our departments, our offices, our culture, our community. So there's just a lot of benefits, not just internally and information for, our community and for services that we provide, but it is a big recruitment tool as well. So just another plug, and I make a good lemonade, Dennis. So if you need any help, let me know.
That's a good point, Pat, about recruiting. I hadn't really thought of that, but it's huge. I mean, there's so much great information on in our website, like down rabbit holes, and you hit dead ends of like, oh, here's a policy from like 2003, and it's just there. Interesting to see. It's not really valid anymore. It hasn't been updated. And you just hit all these weird rabbit holes, dead ends, links within links, and there's a lot of information on there. It just really needs to be organized. Okay, next up is for the acting county manager to take off his hat and put his CPED director hat on.
Yeah,
Josh
great.
Cummings.
CPED director hat. So a couple of, I think, really important big successes coming up. We've got the Single Tree Estates property that we've been working through the abatement process. We have a court order that lasts until August 5th where we can enter the property and clean it up. We've been working hand in glove with Jennifer Walker's team in Public Works to make sure that we follow all the appropriate process. The next big hurdle is the Orca Permit. So we just had the hazardous materials testing. We'll get that information back today, but then the Orca Permit might take 30 days. We're hoping to expedite that and get that project cleaned up before the August 5th deadline, which is coming up in just like 2.5 weeks. So really coming into crunch time with that. If we're not able to make August 5th, we have a contingency to have the PAO hopefully issue or file for an extension. But the folks out there at Single Tree Estates, Cindy Trottier, Cindy Anderson, and some of the other folks that you've seen come to your board meeting continue to be supportive and helpful and on a good path on that. One of the things that you will see, hopefully coming up the next couple of weeks, we, as part of the abatement, you approved in the amendments, $50,000 to be used as a proviso to do the cleanup for Single Tree Estates. We would like to have a more programmatic approach going forward. We've got LP Brown also that we're working with the Olympia School District, re-engaged with them, they re-engaged with us, and to ask for an abatement fund. so a revolving fund. And part of that process is through what's called the FMCC, you guys probably know this better than I, that we need to come inform the board that we're looking at it and creating a fund. And then we come back to the board and ask for the fund to be created during the budget process. So kind of 3 steps, I guess, to it. We're going to ask for that for the abatement fund because we think that we need to have a place to collect the civil penalties that we charge folks when they don't clean up their property. And B, we're gonna put a lien on single tree estates. And if we're gonna have a lien on there, if that property is ever sold, we need to have that money go somewhere. So that's why it's important to create that fund. So that's kind of a big piece, lots of moving parts. The next is the Hcp Mitigation Fund. So we kind of need to do the same thing where we inform the board that a fund is being created. And all this information goes back to Darren Bennett in Financial Services, and then he does the magic with the FMCC. But as we're building this whole new program where we're gonna be collecting the permit fees for the mitigation on the HCP/ITP, we need to create a new fund, a new budget fund. So we're going to inform the board that we're thinking of creating a fund, take that information back to Darren that says we informed the board, and then come back to you during the budget process to ask to create the fund. So it's good, it's part of the logistics apparently for this process. We're learning it as we go, but just know that that information is coming to you. Any questions on either one of those two?
Apparently you've put a RFP out for bids or something about single tree estates to tear it down or something. Did you get responses or?
Yeah, we have some responses.
Have you made some decisions or anything? You don't need to talk about it here if it isn't.
No, the big thing is the hazardous materials testing. So once we get the information back on whether or not there's asbestos or other kind of things, that determines which companies will really finalize their RFP. Because if they don't know, they don't know. We're hoping to get that back today or tomorrow.
What happens with the $500,000 a year from Conservation Futures that's earmarked for HCP? Is that go into a separate fund, or is it just stay in Conservation Futures Fund and it's just earmarked in some way?
That's right. That's the way that one works. This fund.
Will it be transferred over now that we're going to create this new mitigation fund?
That'll be a question for Robin, but I don't think so, because I think that that's a board-directed fund, and the board has the leeway to move that money every budget cycle. So I would presume no, but that's a good question for Robin.
Yeah. Any other questions for Josh from the floor?
I got a couple of items.
Oh, sorry.
You guys might have seen that we got the recovery plan back from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to review that or not, but the big win there is that they answer the question that we've been asking for a long time of how many and how long. And so great work from the Board of County Commissioners. You guys got the federal government to do something that they've been resistant to do for 10 years. So if you have a chance to review that recovery plan, great. We will be coming to you to kind of go through it with an overview. Yep.
I've kind of scanned around it and I still need to sort of, somebody to boil it down for me.
So we'll come back and boil it out for Jennifer will.
Yeah.
She's smart.
Good.
And then we're gonna launch the project review timeline on September 1st. So that's where we're flipping the whole way that we do reviews, getting rid of that broom me another rock. It's gonna be bumpy, but we're gonna use the rest of this year from September 1st through December to work out the kinks. We've already engaged on multiple times for the past year and a half with the business community. And then tomorrow, we'll be launching the Business Advisory Group partnership with the Thurston Chamber, where we're gonna use this as the first topic of discussion and get their two-way communication. Doug Ma and I are in communication on this, and then having this bigger group expanding that. And then the next piece after the PRT is launched, we're gonna start to have a bigger conversation on the HCP/ITP and how that impacts the business community. So good partnership with the Thurston Chamber. And then in terms of lemonade stands, those are great. I would suggest giving away free saltines, and then you could sell more lemonade. It's kind of a path to success. And I don't have any questions. That's all I got.
CPED questions.
I'll just share, those were a lot of acronyms, Josh. A lot of acronyms.
Which ones? The HCP, the FMCC?
The HCP, the ITP, the
PRT?
Yeah, but all good things. I mean, the progress that's being made on the HCP is great.
Well, and
looking
so
forward to that moving forward.
let me address that real quick, because this is kind of good for the whole group. We've been talking about the HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan, for 10 years. And now we're in this transitional phase where we're shifting away from the plan, which has been accepted, and moving into the ITP, which is the incidental take permit. And that, the ITP, is the permit that allows us to issue permits to citizens. And so ITP is gonna be the new push.
I attended the port meeting on Monday, and first time I ever attended a port meeting, but I sat through the whole thing and they got into the HCP, and it gave me this little guilty pleasure of watching someone else struggle with the HCP. We're not the only ones
Yeah.
to watch them go round and round on some project they got going down in Tumwater.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, okay, Josh, is that it for Josh?
Oh, and last thing real quick is, as the acting county manager, putting that hat back on, I made the determination to not have us meet in person and wait until Robin and Ramiro could be here for the re-inaugural event. I am still committed to bringing in the food for next time, so just know that if you want to blame anybody, it's on me.
It's on the fire marshal.
It's on the fire marshal. Thanks.
Are you taking requests for lunch items?
Yes, but only from everybody but Kurt.
Okay, I gave mine to Jennifer, so she'll forward it.
Okay.
Commissioner Edwards, you're up.
No, I'm covered. I think everybody's doing good. Glad to see you all here. Look forward to seeing you in person.
I had a few things. I wanted to mention Leah, but Patrick covered that. I don't know if folks have met Brandy. Brandy Miranda is over here on the right. You probably can't see her. Maybe come into the camera. She's our new upfront person helping, now that Amy is transitioning to clerk of the board. And Brandy,
Probably gotta come over here by
you
time.
gotta come, yeah. Come. Here she is, so you'll meet her when you come over to our board room, so say hi to everybody. We appreciate having her help, and I thought I would just maybe report on the Port Commission meeting I went to, because that was kind of interesting. The Port Commission's moving toward 5 commissioners, and it looks like they want to do that in November. So the Board of County Commissioners thought, you know, that's great, and we're thinking of doing the same thing, but we have to wait for 300,000 census and they don't. So we were thinking, well, it'd really be better, we think, if we all did it together, you know, because we gotta educate the public as to why they would want more elected officials to tangle with. A lot of good reasons for it, but they're not necessarily obvious to the public. So the board asked me, because we were united, the 3 of us, to go speak to the Port Commission, because they've got to move on this. If they're going to do it in November, they have to file by August 3rd. So they're lined up to vote on July 26th, I think it is. So the board asked me to go and just let the port know, hey, we're looking to do this, and we'd love to do it with you together, just in case you didn't know that. Why would they know that? And see if it made any difference. Secondarily, if they're going to do it, please work with us on districts, because we certainly don't want them drawing a set of districts and then a year or 2 later, we draw a different set of districts or are bound by districts that we don't make sense. So that was kind of my 2-prong ask. And so I gave that information to the Port Commission. They don't seem to be inclined to wait to deal with us. They think that they have their own reasons to go on their own, but as far as districting and details, we're gonna have a meeting, I think, next week with them. The joint between the Board of County Commissioners and the Port Commission and the auditor, Mary Hall, who has also urged the board to make those requests of the port. She sees a lot of problems in doing it in 2 separate pieces and a lot of advantages to doing it coordinated. So we're gonna see what kind of collaboration we can hash out at a joint meeting between the 2 commissions next week. So it sounds like, you know, as Commissioner Zeta pointed out, all 6 of us seem to agree that the community would be better served by 5 commissioner Board of County Commissions and 5 commissioner Port Commission. We all agree that the district should be the same. It's really just about timing and logistical details, so.
So a question on that,
Yeah.
just for us in edification. When our population goes over the 300,000, the Board of County Commissioners still needs to put something on the ballot for the
Yes.
citizens to approve that.
Yeah, it's a single ballot measure versus the charter, which has to go through a two-step, 2 votes of the people to do a charter. Where you have to get the people to want to vote for a charter, then you have to select freeholders who then create a charter, and then you put the final charter before the people, and that's failed multiple times.
4 times, I think.
Okay.
So
So 300,000,
the 300,000, you're allowed to go straight to the people for 1 vote, and all it does is add 2 new commissioners, period. Nothing else changes, same process, primary by district, general election by the whole county would elect all 5 commissioners. Nothing would change, it would just add 2 districts.
so educate us, why would 5 be better than 3?
The arguments for 5, there's several. I mean, the one that we're always talking about is the quorum issue. So 2 commissioners could form a subcommittee, we could talk, we could go to meetings together, we could just be more efficient, I think, frankly. I mean, just, that's the big one, Open Public Meetings Act. Stability, so Joe Downing's making the argument for the port that he's about to lose 2 commissioners, because 2 people are stepping down. And so you're losing 2/3 of your board, the institutional knowledge, like just this institutional stability over time. You would never be in a situation of losing 2/3 of your, and being left with 1 person who knows anything about what has come before. So stability that way, institutional stability. Now, the next piece of it is more if you had districts, but it still applies, I think, which is that political balance, right? When you have 3 who are all elected by the whole county, you can have pretty wild political swings that don't really reflect, the county's stable. The commission can go from 100% liberal to 100% conservative in 2 years. Thurston County's not changing that radically. We have conservative citizens and we have liberal citizens. So to have 5, you'll have less wild political swings, and then being in districts where maybe the politics change through the county, you're more, and again, everybody's elected by the whole county, but you're more likely to have more, if it's a South County district, you're more likely to have a South County resident who holds those values. Downtown Olympia, you're more likely to have a downtown Olympia who holds those values. So you'll always have the full range of voices that we have in our community represented on the board. Whereas now you can really have swings where one side of the community is just aced out in a particular window of time.
And that's why it'd be helpful to have the districting the same for the county as the port.
Well, and that's just a matter of confusion too. I mean, people will never, they can barely make sense of it now with LD 22 and LD 35.
And it is 3 now, the same as.
Yeah, and we're the same now.
Yeah,
PUD's
so
the
we'll
same.
keep it that way, PUD.
The tricky part that Commissioner Downing brought up is that so the current commissioners get to be districts 1, 2, and 3, and then you have to create, this is by RCW, you have to create 4 and 5. Well, apparently Commissioner Mejia and Commissioner Downing live in opposite ends of what's District 1. So to create a District 1 that would keep them both in the same district is going to be a challenge. So that's something that I want to talk about with Mary Hall, and we'll kind of hash out in this meeting. Because we would like to collaborate on the districts and keep them the same, but you've got these 2 existing commissioners that have a legal right to stay in their District 1.
Right.
And so how does that gonna fly? There's a lot of complexities. It's pretty amazing, the whole redistricting, because then you've got, you have to create, the new districts then have to be staggered when their elections are, and you want long-term balance, but you've got existing commissioners with existing terms who have existing addresses. And that all has to be wiggled together. And now you're trying to do it for 2 different commissions.
Right.
I think it can be done, but it's gonna take a lot of work and a commitment to collaboration.
Any questions on that topic, team?
I do. Is there is one of the reasons for wanting to coordinate with the port at the same time, is there a cost savings associated with doing it together in terms of the cost of the election?
There is a cost in terms of the districting and the election. I think it's kind of in my opinion, it's a somewhat minor consideration. I think the more major consideration is just having 6 united commissioners sending the message. And I think people who might be inclined to scratch their heads about what is this all about, they might give it a more a more thorough look if they see, wow, both commissions are advocating for this and all 6 commissioners are behind it. You know, I mean, it basically reduces our power, right? We go from 1/3 of the vote to 1/5 of the vote. So I think it sends a powerful message when all 6 commissioners from every end of the political spectrum are willing to reduce their own power because they believe it's good government and better democracy. I think that sends a very powerful message to the community who might be skeptical of adding. But you know, one of the port's arguments is that money-wise, since you brought that up, is that they don't get paid what we get paid because they're not full-time. So they think it's an easier sell for them to go solo because they're not asking the public for as much money. It's gonna cost a little more money to have 5 county commissioners versus 5 port commissioners. Again, I'm not sure that that's an argument I heard. To me, that shouldn't be.
Maybe just as a follow-up on that, citizens look at me like I've got 2 heads once in a while when I tell them, well, I haven't discussed that with the chair, for an example, whatever the issue is. And they know I'm right next door to him. Well, aren't you guys in the same office? You know, and we are not allowed, and there is no protections given to elected officials that break the Open Public Meetings Act. There's a lot of protections that the county gives us if we make a mistake on different things, but that's not one of them.
Or take legislative action.
Yeah, if we discuss the potential of some type of, we don't even have to take the action. If we discuss that, just as an example, Ty and I and Commissioner Mejia were at a meeting about a month ago, all 3 of us, and I don't know as we all knew the other person was gonna be there. And, you know, if I was to comment or we discussed an upcoming issue and it wasn't adequately posted, I think is what we call it, then somebody's gonna get in trouble over it. And it just doesn't make sense that we cannot say to a fellow seatmate, hey, did you understand all that? You know, that maybe a presentation was given, and so we might go away kind of not understanding it all because we can't even ask our seatmate, hey, did you get that? That's not a legal question that I can talk to anybody about. So it's, and I'll be honest with you, I was one of the individuals in the past that wasn't too thrilled about adding additional seats until I got to working within the system. And I do think it's an efficiency issue for the taxpayers. It'll be money well spent.
I'd like to see districts eventually, because one of the things you add with districts is you reduce running a county commissioner campaign is so expensive because you're such a big population. And when you boil it down to districts, the commissioners they need less money to reach their constituents and be in touch with their neighborhoods, and rather than trying to appeal across the whole county. There's a counter argument that it's good to have the commissioners trying to please everyone across the whole county. It moves you to the middle and balances you. So there's always like 2 sides to the argument, but I just think it's hard to have 3, and it's going to be even harder to have 5 commissioners raising enough money to reach voters across the whole county. But I don't know, there's a lot of considerations, but I think it speaks volumes that all 6 commissioners are in agreement that this would be a positive change, despite the fact that, reduces our own power of our vote. Go ahead, Pat.
Do we have a sense of when we're, the projection that we'll cross that 300,000 threshold? And obviously it could be dynamic, right? Like you could cross it and then go back under it.
Yeah.
But presumably you just go over it.
I think once we go over it, we're good to go. We're at 295 as of this summer's OFM, but then the census numbers, which come in September, will recalibrate. It's a 10-year process where the census recalibrates and then OFM every year does a tweak. And so we're at the 10th year of that. So we're 10 years away from the last census recalibration. So even though we're at 295, the prevailing wisdom is that the census recalibration will surge us pretty significantly past 300. So that could happen as I'm anticipating we'll know this fall but then it's gotta go on a general election. So The earliest it's likely to happen for Thurston County Commission would be 2022 November. And we asked the port to wait 1 year, but they don't seem inclined to do that.
Any other questions on that topic or anything else?
All right, great, thanks everybody. Right on time, we're adjourned, good to see everybody. See you in person next week, or next month.
Bye.